Welcome to Iowa Primetime Live. Coming off a disappointing and frustrating Cyhawk game, Iowa's on to UMass now on Saturday. My name is Zach Heine alongside Josh Helmer. We'll be your host, guiding you through some more Cyhawk discussion, previewing UMass as well. Thank you for tuning in a bit later tonight for our schedules, but we appreciate you still making some time to tune in to Iowa Primetime Live. Josh, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm ready to see this Iowa team bounce back and hopefully, to whatever degree it can, figure out a downfield passing attack. Obviously, the leaps and bounds that you hope that maybe you could have seen from Albany to Iowa State, we didn't see it. So I'm sure that was driving a lot of the conversation, and some of those old, unkind, unsettling items that have haunted this fan base and some of the discourse and discussion around it. Unfortunately, we're rehashing some of that tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, and a lot of that discussion was talked about on Monday's show. I came on here for about 45-50 minutes and just kind of riffed and ranted about some things within the Iowa football program, and we can get into that a bit later on in the show. It is our call-in show tonight, so I'll throw that StreamYard link into the chat. So whenever we want someone to hop in, join us, talk about the Hawks, preview UMass, talk about the Cyhawk game, whatever you want to do, I'll throw that StreamYard link into the chat right now. But I'm going to throw it over to you first, Josh, because I've already given a lot of my thoughts on Monday about the Cyhawk game and about a lot of Iowa's problems. So I'll throw it over to you. Just, your reactions to Iowa losing once again to Iowa State, and where does this leave the future of the program?
Well, I was encouraged by some of what we saw defensively. That's not obviously a big shock for Iowa, but look, this was the first big test for the Hawkeyes, and defensively, for the most part, they held up pretty well. Obviously, bits and pieces that you would have liked to have, found another stop here or there, but we kind of know the song and dance. This defense gets pressed maybe one too many times to come up with stop after stop after stop. And of course, you couldn't keep Conradi once again from getting into position. Just get him, within 60, 55. And hey, that's a green light for him to go win a football game. And unfortunately, Iowa fans, well, they found that out again. But positively, I thought, the defense, they're kind of what we suspected, Zach. They are as advertised. This is an Iowa State offense that I think, in terms of the schedule ahead for Iowa, there's Drew Aller on the schedule. There's Dante Moore looks really, really good on the schedule from Oregon. This is one of the, top 25% tile of the quarterbacks that Iowa's going to see this season. And I thought the Hawkeyes did a pretty good job from that respect. But look, no discussion on Iowa in the Cyhawk game is complete or honest or transparent without addressing the reality that, unfortunately, it just doesn't look like this offense has improved. And I'm not going to totally write the book 2 games in coming out of Albany and obviously this trip to Ames and versus Iowa State. I'm not going to totally subscribe to the idea that it can't get better, Zach, but man, it's just frustrating. I feel bad for Iowa fans. I feel guilty for being a part of the problem over the offseason of hyping the idea that Mark Gronowski was going to be this game-changing, difference-making quarterback. Maybe he's still, before the song and dance is finished up here, maybe he can still be some form or fashion of a difference from Spencer Petras and from the damaged goods Cade McNamara that you got and from Padilla and from Deacon Hill. But right now it's not looking all that different at all. Unfortunately, we'll see, speaking of things that you could be a little bit encouraged by, I'd like to see Iowa, and I know they talked about it this week at the press conference. I know they were asked about it. Hey, the slow mesh, are we going to see more of that? I'd like to see more of the slow mesh because on one of the times that you ran the slow mesh, you saw a nice scramble from Gronowski, and he got to use his feet. And probably for Iowa, we're going to have to see more of that. You're going to have to run Gronowski more and more and more to unlock some of this and get into some of that RPO portion of this offense to hopefully find some positives. But right now, where we sit today on Thursday, September 11th, 2025, Mark Gronowski is not the upgraded quarterback that we were hoping that Mark Gronowski would be as an upgraded quarterback for Iowa. So that's frustrating. That's disappointing. The wide receivers have been a big-time disappointment. The drops versus Iowa State were just absolutely killer. And based on the history of this program, I don't want to just be a doom and gloom pod. I want to try to find some positives, some enjoyment out of the rest of this Iowa season. But I also want to be authentic and fair to the fan base. And right now, there's some great cause for concern with Mark Gronowski, these wide receivers collectively. And I know the Reese Vanderzee injury, Zach, we can discuss that. It's a part of this story too. And how much had he, if he was fully healthy, how big of a leap would he have taken? How much would that impact the rest of it? How much would that help the rest of it? Okay, we don't have an answer to that question today, but collectively, the wide receivers relative to what we hoped they would be in 2025, that is a big-time disappointment. So, man, I just come out of the Cyhawk game, even though it's a one-score loss against what we're told is a good Iowa State team that maybe is going to go win the Big 12 Conference, could be a college football playoff team. Even coming out of a one-score loss, I'm deflated by it for Iowa, and I think probably a lot of fans share that sentiment.
Yeah, I think if you told most Iowa fans on Saturday morning at about 10 a.m. that Rocco Beck would throw for 140 yards and 1 touchdown in the Cyhawk game, I think a lot of Iowa fans would have been like, sweet, how many points did we win by? Because, I mean, you did a great job of keeping a fantastic quarterback really in check. He hit the one throw to Eskildson down the sidelines for about 30 yards. But that was about it in terms of big plays through the air for the Iowa State offense. Like the Iowa defense played really well. I will say no turnovers forced by the Iowa defense through 2 games. That's got to change really soon. This is a unit that prides themselves on creating turnovers and splash plays, and it's, especially with an offense that's really struggling to get going right now, creating a short field or 2 would be really beneficial. And so that unit needs to force some turnovers and finish off some more sacks as well. Just 2 sacks through 2 games, none against Iowa State. So it's nitpicking a unit that's been largely very, very good this season. But, we're used to seeing Iowa get to the quarterback a bit more and create those turnovers. And we haven't quite seen that yet on defense. I'm sure that it'll come around. But just want to acknowledge those concerns defensively before we probably spend a majority of the show talking about the Iowa offense and a lot of the concerns over there. I'm trying to reach for positives. Offensively, Jacob Gill had a fine game. I think he had 5 catches for 52 yards. Really the only wide receiver in general that showed up in the Cyhawk game. I thought Jazz Patterson once again looked really good. 11 carries for 60 yards for him. He really plays well against Iowa State. I have no idea why Iowa waited until the end of the second quarter to give him his first carry. I don't know why that took so long to make that adjustment. And I don't know. I guess we'll move into the question marks now. I really don't understand the infatuation right now with Terrell Washington Jr. starting at running back. I think he's a guy that obviously you see the talent there and you see the highs with him, and he came in as a receiver. That's kind of what he was recruited as, and then Iowa moved him to running back, and it just hasn't worked so far. He's looked like the least explosive of the 3 options with Patterson and Xavier Williams. And he's listed as a starter again on Saturday. And I know that tag doesn't really matter a whole lot because all 3 of them will get some run. But I don't know. Just from what I've seen right now, Williams and Patterson would be my 2 guys that would give the majority of the carries until Kamari Moulton comes back. But I wasn't super impressed with him in the Cyhawk game. And then the receivers. I know I talked with you about this last week about you just being upset with getting hyped up over the receivers in the offseason once again. But Iowa wide receivers not named Jacob Gill, I think combined for 3 catches and 24 yards in that Cy-Hawk game. Sam Phillips had 1 for 15. Cade Weechin had 1 for 4. And then Seth Anderson might have had 1 catch for 6 yards or something
5.
like that. Up for 5 yards. It's just I don't understand with this unit. Like it's been really bad this decade with the wide receivers. And just like you, I bought into the hype. I bought into the excitement about the unit from preseason camp and practices and the coaches, speaking and Kids Day and all that stuff. And yet again, I'm disappointed with Iowa wide receivers and what they haven't brought to the table this season.
Can we just talk the big picture for a moment?
Yeah.
We can sit here and I thought Jazz Patterson, by the way, was an absolute bright spot. He, I'll raise my hand as being a little bit guilty on this front. He, with my hype and others, I think, thoughts that Kamari Moulton was kind of the lead back. Great excitement there. Xavier Williams, you were excited. TJ Washington, what he could maybe do in just terms of sheer electricity if you put him in the right spots. Jazz Patterson was a guy that was kind of a forgotten guy. And there's no question. He was one of the best players on the field for Iowa in the Cy-Hawk game. So gotta give him credit. That certainly was a positive. And he's absolutely earned the opportunity versus UMass and beyond to give that man the rock. When you go out and produce the way that he produced versus Iowa State, he's earned the opportunity for more opportunity. But big picture with Iowa, and I hate to say it, you know me, I don't like living totally in absolutes. But the elephant in the room, and look, this is not a sneaky elephant. It's an elephant for a reason, right? It's big, it's obvious, and I don't even know that it's sitting in the corner of the room anymore. Quarterback play and wide receiver play in Iowa City, it's not going to improve with Kirk Ferentz as the head football coach. And look, am I going to sit here tonight and demand and say it's time for a new head football coach in Iowa City? No, I don't think that's the direction that I'm going to take tonight, but I don't know that I can get caught up in excitement about a new quarterback. Spencer Petras, we lived Petras, actually came in as a fairly highly rated guy with, some pretty legitimate arm talent. In Iowa City, he went to rot. And I don't know that was entirely, Brian Ferentz's fault or Kirk Ferentz's fault. Some of it, a lot of it, as well, was Spencer Petras' fault, okay? But for me, it starts there, just thinking back the last however many years, okay? Spencer Petras, to some degree, probably would have been a better quarterback in other places. Okay, you turn the page, you went and you got the splash quarterback of Cade McNamara. Injured goods, yeah, but your options might have been limited because of the reputation of Iowa. So you wound up with Cade McNamara, who you hoped was going to be an upgraded quarterback, Big Ten championship winning quarterback, but he was a poor quarterback. He was an injury-riddled quarterback in Iowa City. The quarterbacks that you've signed over the last half decade, Zach, none of them have panned out. Many have wound up at Group of 5 schools or out of Division I altogether.
It's two quarterbacks in the 2020 classes that have taken or have thrown a pass attempt at Iowa. Deuce Hogan threw 1 pass, and Joe Labus threw 24 passes in a bowl game. Those are the only quarterbacks in the 2020s that Iowa has recruited out of high school that have thrown a pass at Iowa.
So feel how you want to feel. However Iowa goes about acquiring quarterbacks and developing quarterbacks is wrong, and it's been swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss, and there's one common denominator, and it's the head coach. So I'm kind of at the point, Zach, to where you can have Tim Lester in year 2, 3, 4. You can down the road hire a different offensive coordinator, and I just don't know that I can buy in again that Iowa's going to fix the quarterback situation, that Iowa's going to fix its wide receivers and go have this explosive big play offense if Kirk Ferentz is the head football coach. And that's the sad reality of this latest chapter, because we've just seen too many examples. You mentioned the high school quarterbacks that you signed. None of them panned out. None of them developed into legitimate Big Ten caliber quarterbacks for Iowa. Okay, so you went and got a splash quarterback in Cade McNamara. And I would imagine there were still quite a few suitors for Cade McNamara. At the time, that was a big-time transfer portal win for Iowa. Same thing here with Mark Gronowski. None of it has worked. The wide receivers, we've played the hype game with the wide receivers. None of it has developed in a significant way. Wide receivers are probably scared to come to Iowa City. Quarterbacks are probably scared to come to Iowa City. So, okay, there's my doom and gloom. I'll get off that pulpit tonight. But that's where we're at with Iowa football. And I feel bad for the fan base because they deserve better. And I think it's okay to demand better, Zach.
Yeah, I think the big problem for Iowa is it's kind of like they're eating each other alive in terms of you're bringing these guys and you don't develop these quarterbacks and wide receivers, and they don't pan out. And when they don't pan out, you're not able to get top recruits at those positions. And so it's just over and over and over again. It's the same cycle. You can't recruit because you can't develop these positions because you can't, and then because they don't pan out. And it's really weird because Iowa develops so many other positions so well. Like you look at tight ends and offensive linemen and even running backs recently. Iowa's had a really good track record. If you go back to Tyler Goodson and obviously Caleb Johnson, like Iowa's done a good job with that group. And then obviously on defense, they've done some really awesome work there. But they just can't get the quarterbacks and wide receivers right. And it's been a problem for a half decade now. And I just don't know where you go, because with Iowa's current system, it's not going to change under Kirk Ferentz. And I wonder how much longer a guy like Tim Lester wants to hang around here. And not to get like full doom and gloom, but I just refuse to believe that was his game plan on Saturday. Like it was so conservative in that Cy-Hawk game, especially in the first half. And I don't understand why Iowa came out like that. Like you're on the road against a top 20 team and you're the underdog. So why are you playing scared is my question. You have nothing to lose. And Iowa's game plan, they came out and played like they had something to lose. And I don't understand why it was so conservative. And I just don't believe that that's a Tim Lester game plan. I just can't. If it is, that's really bad. But I just have to believe that somewhere Kirk Ferentz has got his hands on the game plan in that game and really overrode what Tim Lester wanted to do. And I just wonder how much longer Lester wants to deal with that and the perception, because now it's his reputation on the line, because now it's his reputation linked with an Iowa offense that's a joke nationally. So how much longer does Tim Lester want to put up with that and risk, him losing out on future job opportunities at places that are actually use his talents and will listen to him? I wonder how much longer he stays here. I mean, I hope Tim Lester hangs around because I think he is a really talented play caller. I just think he's not being able to really flourish at Iowa because of the system that Kirk Ferentz wants to run. And I think it was really interesting, Josh, after the game. I think it was Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register brought up to Kirk Ferentz that Iowa is now 0-10 in their last 10 games against ranked opponents. And
this, by the way, out of those 10,
it was the closest one by far.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it's like the only close one.
Yeah, it was. I think David Eichel of 247 Sports calculated it, and Iowa's last 10 games against ranked opponents, they've lost by an average score of 34-7. And so this one, that's with a 3-point loss to Iowa State. So it was way worse before that.
And oh, by the way, not to interject and totally cut you off, here, Zach. But
no, you're good. You're good.
Throughout many of those losses with very, very, very good defenses nationally. Continue.
Yep. And an offense that could not do anything to keep them in the game. And it's frustrating for Iowa fans, I think, because Iowa used to be good for at least one, if not two, upsets a year. They would play a big time program in Ohio State, a Penn State, a Michigan, something like that every year, and Iowa would pull off an upset, and it'd be the win of the season. Iowa could win eight games, but if they beat Michigan in that regular season, Iowa fans would feel good about it. It's a signature win. They can feel good about that. Iowa really doesn't do that anymore. If you take out, Iowa State in 2022 or in 2023, how many good, quote unquote, and I know it's very subjective, but how many good teams has Iowa beaten in the last 4 years? Because they haven't beaten any ranked teams. So I I don't know. I really I can probably count on one hand the amount of good or great teams that Iowa's beaten the last 4 years, and it used to be their calling card, and now it's something that they just really struggle with. And I don't know. I want to hear from our guy T Hink, though. He's been waiting patiently down there in the waiting room, and I know he's got some things to say, some thoughts on Iowa and the future of the program. And we welcome T Hink to Iowa Primetime Live. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, hanging in there. It's Thursday evening.
What's up, brother?
But how's it going?
It's good, man.
Not too bad. It could be better. We could be talking about a Cy-Hawk win, but unfortunately, we're not able to do that.
Sadly, it's another loss, I guess, to Iowa State, and 2 years back to back, as Tim Lester's yet beat Iowa State, which is never would have thought of that going into second year of under him. But I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. All the phases Iowa does well at Saturday was absolutely a joke. Special teams, they pride themselves in special teams, kicked themselves in the foot to start the game. The unsportsmanlike conduct against Caden Weegan, and Caden Weegan had the worst game by far of his hockey career.
He had a bad game.
It was not good, but
yep.
I think he'll bounce back. I think he'll be fine. But defense, I was honestly kind of shocked. I thought they did pretty well on Saturday. I thought the corners did pretty well. I like what I saw from TJ Hall. We were all thinking he would be doing pretty good. He took a step forward, I thought, on Saturday, and I thought he did pretty well. Deshaun, they threw it to more of TJ's side of the ball, which I thought they would have done more to Deshaun's, but I thought all in well in the defense, they just need to get a little bit more pressure on Rocco. I think when we saw the QB hurries, it made Rocco throw the ball out quicker. And I think when he throws the ball out quicker, I don't think he's as good quarterback as he has time in the pocket to throw downfield. But don't get me wrong, Rocco is a great quarterback. And to be honest with you, as an Iowa fan, I hope he's gone this year, because I don't want to play him again in Iowa City, because I think he just has our number. I don't know. I hope he's gone, to be honest with you, in the NFL. But
they're on a really nice run of quarterbacks. Even Deckers, who obviously had the suspension deal, NFL guy, and Rocco looks like he's on that trajectory as well. He's a big time talent, no doubt about it.
And what Zach said on Monday, Zach was great on Monday, by the way. He was giving his
I appreciate it, I think. Yeah, thank you.
His state of the dress was pretty good. I thought it was very well thought out of. But just seeing Iowa State just put two quarterbacks back to back, I think Rocco's going to go to the NFL. And just
he looks like it.
Yes, and I think if Hunter Deckers didn't get caught with the gambling thing, I think he's another. I think he had showed some good things before he got caught with the gambling.
NFL tryout with the Saints this past offseason, even after he went to the community college.
Yeah, and Iowa's yet to gain any traction. They can't even develop a quarterback from the high school ranks. They all either transfer out or, like I said, the private chat. I mean, Carson May and James Rees are now tight ends at lower level colleges, where I don't even know where they're even at. I know James went to some community college in, I think, maybe Florida, but it's just the quarterback play has been abysmal. I don't want to give up yet on Mark. I think what I saw was progress from week 1 to week 2. Don't get me wrong, week 1 was bad. I thought we were right down the track with Cade McNamara-esque, but I think he took a step forward. I like what we saw on the slow mesh, for example. Why didn't we run that more to begin with? Iowa State was so caught off guard when Iowa ran that. It wasn't even funny. And then another thing I saw is the script plays for Iowa. What are we doing on the script plays? I thought the script plays are supposed to – I know nothing about ball, but the script plays are supposed to be your best plays that you run constantly in practice. Yeah. And we were just getting stuffed left and right.
Run, pass.
Yeah, run pass. That's literally all we did. And that just gets frustrating.
Every drive.
Because the defense knows what's going to happen. And when they load the box like that, and it just, as a fan, it's just like, we could do better, but I think Kirk's just holding the offense hostage and not letting Tim run what he wants to run.
Again, that's the common denominator. It's tough, whether or not that is indeed the case. It's tough not to feel that way or reach that conclusion because, again, he's the common denominator, and they've brought in some smart offensive minds. Tim Lester's a guy that, went and studied up in the National Football League and knows how to run. And
Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan. I mean,
some
great
minds in the NFL. Warren Ruggiero comes over. He brings the slow match. They have some smart offensive football people in there, but they're handcuffed. They won't run a lot of those items, and I wish they would lean into it. More of the RPO, use some slow mesh, and take some chances, man. I mean, it can't get much worse, guys.
It can't. I mean, we saw when Iowa threw the ball, that one deep bomb to Seth Anderson, and they got a pass interference because they were so focused.
It was going to be a touchdown. It was a touchdown if it didn't hold him. Yeah.
Yeah. If Iowa throws the ball downfield more than 10 yards, they're going to get a pass interference call because nobody thinks they're going to throw the ball downfield. We have no threat at all to throw the ball downfield, and that is what the most frustrating thing is Iowa's inept on going downfield. And another thing that drives me nuts is when the receivers don't know where they're at on the field and they run
short of the sticks.
Yeah, 3 yards back towards the quarterback.
Explain to me, how does that happen again and again and again? How is that possible?
I have no idea how that is possible. And the coaches think that's on the players. Well, I'm like, why aren't you coaching that better to not have them running short of the sticks? I have no idea why they don't run. And coming back routes, I don't understand that either. Attack vertically, quick coming back to the quarterback. I just don't understand why whoever is teaching that needs to be either fired and if that's on the players, then the players need to be better in the film rooms because it's beyond horrendous.
On that interception, I wanted to ask both of you, who do you blame more there? Do you blame Mark Gronowski for that throw, or do you blame Caden Weechin there for slipping on the route, and then
Weechin,
or do you blame the coaching staff for the play call in that situation where you're putting like a guy who hasn't run very many routes and isn't very experienced as a wide receiver outside on a premier corner to run a curl route on a third down?
Yeah, the final two items. Yeah, certainly much more than the quarterback.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think the Weechin thing on receiver just needs to be done. Just play kick return or punt return. I just don't think I don't think he knows the route trees as well as the other guys, and they need to get Reese Vandersby back as soon as possible. I think he was Mark's safety blanket, and not having him out there, I think is really hurting Mark. I don't want to give in yet on Mark, but can we all agree, Iowa, please don't ever spend whatever the amount was on a quarterback,
$2 million,
and spread the wealth around and get like
the problem. The problem, though, is I think they need that guy to shift the perception of the program. And so you spent that money thinking Gronowski was going to be that guy, and it's just not playing out that way. And, okay, is it Gronowski's fault? Is it Tim Lester's fault? Is it the wide receiver's fault? Is it a combination of all of it? Or is it mostly Kirk Ferentz's fault? And I know a lot of people feel like it's mostly Kirk Ferentz's fault, though wide receivers seem like they're catching a lot of flack from the Hawkeye fan base as well. So, or is it that Gronowski can't play at this level versus that Iowa State team and other programs like it? It might be a little bit of all of it. I would for the moment lean a little bit away from Gronowski and point more toward the head football coach and the skill talent around him.
I have a few more things here, and then I can let somebody else get on, but I still don't think whoever the quarterback is, you could take your boy John Mateer at Oklahoma or Patrick Mahomes. I still don't think they're going to be – I don't care who the quarterback is. I still think they'll be ruined and died. We can look at Bo Pribula. That guy would have came into Iowa and he would have probably died. now he's at Missouri. He's probably going to make the NFL because of what he's
Talk
doing.
about an offseason winner right there, Bo Pribula with the choice of the offseason.
And how sad. How sad. Why can't Iowa fans win one of these? Why can't you go get Gronowski, or in this case, as we're discussing, you get Bo Pribula. He comes to Iowa, and he does what he's doing for Eli Drinkwitz. Why can't that happen at Iowa? And the answer, of course, we know is the head football coach and the wide receivers not good enough, but there's no reason that Pribula can't come to a place like Iowa with this incredible fan base and play in that amazing stadium in Kinnick Stadium. That is such a wonderful home field advantage with a sensational defense year after year after year, with one of the premier defensive coordinators, and win and contend in the Big Ten. There's no reason those things can't happen. And yet those things can't happen. And that's so frustrating. And the reality is Pribula, he made a great decision. It hurts. It stings. He made the right business decision, and having to exist constantly in that reality is it's just so agonizing.
Yeah. I mean, what I saw on what was it, Saturday?
He was dealing. He was dealing in that Kansas game.
Oh yeah, he was on fire, man. Like I said, I don't think he comes to Iowa and he does that, to be honest with you, which is it's infuriating, to be honest with you, that someone that you were on, I guarantee you, he would not be putting those numbers up at Iowa. But fast forward to this weekend for Iowa. What are you guys even looking for? This UMass team is beyond
terrible.
I mean, they lost to Bryant, wherever they're out of, I have no idea.
FCS school.
Nothing against them, but
look, I mean, you tell me where the bar is at. I mean, I want 200 plus passing yards, and maybe that's a crazy number to even throw out there against the UMass team that surrenders 297 and is atrocious defensively, stopping teams from throwing the football. But I mean, and I think that's, you want to be able to say, okay, we want to throw for 300. We want to throw for 350. We want to feel like a team like UMass. Our skill guys are so much better than their defensive backs, and our quarterback and our offensive line, we're going to pass protect in a way that if we want to go name our number as 300 passing yards, 350, that we can go do it versus this team. But none of us can confidently sit here and say that. But what do you want to see? I mean, Zach, for me, it's we gotta see the passing game look better against a pass defense that's one of the nation's worst.
Yeah, I don't really care about anything defensively or on special teams in this game. I fully expect Iowa to take care of business there. UMass is down their quarterback, their running back, and their two top wide receivers, I think, in this game, and they already weren't good with those players. So I expect Iowa's defense to take care of business, but it has to be the passing game. You need to see some explosion. Like, this is the worst team on remaining on your schedule. Every other team that you play is a Big Ten team that's competent. It's not like Purdue or Northwestern. Like, you're playing good Big Ten teams for the rest of your 2025 schedule. And I just wonder how it's kind of a fascinating question. How much leeway do the fans at Kinnick Stadium give this offense on Saturday? Like, if they go out there and they go 3-and-out on the first drive, or if they go out there and they're just running the ball and very conservative,
it's going to get nasty.
I wonder how long it takes to get really bad inside Kinnick Stadium, and I worry about that for the players. I think it's not a good scene for them, but it's if the coaching staff is putting them in that situation, because I think this fan base is really fed up. They're really fed, like more so than before, with how much money you paid for Mark Gronowski and all the hype and all the offseason and year two of Tim Lester and all the hype around the receivers. Like, this fan base has really had enough. And I think if they come out very conservative again, because Iowa could run the ball for 350 yards against UMass probably and win the game comfortably and not throw for a lot of yards. But fans don't want to see that. Fans don't care as much about the wins or the loss, or in this case, as much as how do you look and the semantics of it. And I just wonder how quickly it gets ugly inside Kinnick Stadium if the play calling is really conservative again.
I would say, T. Hink, I'll let you sound off in just a second here. I would say rapidly. This is like, man, this thing's it's a volcano, and it's headed for a nasty eruption here in Kinnick Stadium if the offense is poor early in this thing, if they can't find some explosive plays against a UMass team that the fans, with everything that has happened over the last half decade and the start of this season and the hype with Gronowski's now this latest quarterback that he's going to fix this thing and provide a legitimate, substantial difference at quarterback, and it hasn't happened with all of those ingredients together, and the fact that UMass is just flat out perceived as awful nationally and the loss that they're coming off of. If they start slow offensively, yes, it could get nasty in a hurry, because I think this fan base is fed up. And I feel bad if that's the case for some of these players on this roster that haven't really been a part of all of it. I'd feel bad for the offensive line, which I think is really pretty good this year for Iowa. A couple of years ago, we were talking about, oh my gosh, they can't pass protect Petrus at all. They can't run block at all. This is not an Iowa offensive line. This Hawkeye offensive line right now is back to the standard, in my estimation, that Hawkeye fans expect and appreciate. And unfortunately, the other parts around it, they're just not at that point.
Yeah, I agree. As a fan, I want to see Iowa throw the ball at least 25, 30 times on Saturday. Attack downfield. And I don't know, to be honest with you. I can't probably won't get much out of this game, to be honest with you. UMass is, like I said, is dog awful. But just throw the ball downfield. Do it like 7 times. That's all I'm asking for. People say we don't want to do anything and we don't want to put it on film. We have nothing on film. Put something on film that you're actually going to test the defense and throw the ball downfield. And I'll leave it at this. When do you think apathy starts setting in? Do you think it happens after this year if the second quarterback that we brought in from the transfer portal has burned?
I think it's already here.
Already here?
I do. I think it kind of already was there going into this thing. And I think Mark Gronowski erased some of it and provided hope. And again, we can't totally close the book on him. And I do think he's going to get better. And I expect Iowa throwing the football guys, they're going to improve. To the degree that we were hoping in the offseason, I think now is unrealistic and probably not going to happen with the wide receivers. But I think apathy, and unfortunately, is back in a big-time way. I think it was already there. I think there was a ray of sunshine and hope, and I think it has dissipated here pretty quickly.
Well, the only thing that's going forward is Kirk Ferentz is still selling out the stadium, unlike Fran was. That's where I'm still –
I was going to say, yeah, apathy it's hard to tell because, Iconic Stadium is going to be filled. It's going to be filled to the brink every Saturday.
That's a fair point.
And so it's hard to tell, like, as you mentioned, T-Hink, with the men's basketball team, like, it got really bad inside Carver. Like, people were not sold on – people weren't going to men's basketball games. And you saw it was really bad in comparison to the women's basketball games that were sold out every night. And it just showed that there was apathy kicking in there, and Iowa made the change there. Beth Getz, I think, is someone that isn't afraid to make the tough decisions. I don't. Kirk Ferentz will leave.
It's a lot of money.
When Kirk Ferentz wants to leave, he will.
Will he?
He's going out. I think he's going out on his own terms whenever he thinks he's done.
Is he?
I don't see any scenario.
I'm not
Iowa
so sold that he
him.
is. I'm not. I can see this thing getting nasty enough. I know that's the Iowa fan base's thought. But I don't know, man. Beth Getz has already shown you once that she's willing to make a tough decision. Is she going to do that with football and with Kirk? I don't know. But by the way, she did it with Brian Ferentz.
Yeah, I think it might be more of a handshake deal behind the scenes. Hey, like, we don't want to fire you. Like, we're moving on. We'll give you the option to retire and have a ceremony, and we'll give you a statue, and go out on great terms, and we'll give you your money and your buyout. But I think it's a better chance of that happening than a straight up public firing of Kirk Ferentz. I think there's probably a handshake deal behind the scenes.
What if that handshake deal is met with arrogance and I ain't leaving?
Well, then we're going to see
because there's been quite a bit of stubbornness.
Yeah.
There's been quite a bit of stubbornness over the last couple of years in Iowa City.
And it's always a question too when a coach leaves, because we get on Kirk Ferentz a lot as fans. We expect more, but the one thing that you can't deny about Kirk Ferentz is that his players absolutely love him. Like, his players you know, a lot of the reason players come to Iowa is to play for Kirk Ferentz. He's someone that really endears himself to his players very well. And so if you move on from Kirk Ferentz, I think that would, in the long run of the program, that's probably the best move ultimately. But in the short run, things could get really bad. I think Iowa would be hit, massively in the transfer portal. They're going to be losing a lot of guys and a lot of talented guys who were here for Kirk Ferentz, and it's going to take a couple of years probably to rebuild the program back up to national relevancy. And so it's one of those things where you might have to take a hit in the short run, to be in a better spot in the long run. But I mean, we'll see. It's still so early too. Like, I know we're all mad, but the season's like what, 16% of the way done. Like there's still a lot of season left, and Iowa's one win versus Penn State or Oregon away from completely, changing how we all look at 2025. And like, I'm frustrated, but I'm not ready to give up just yet. Now, if they lose to Rutgers or Minnesota or someone like that, then I might have to change my tune. But it's still so early.
And probably there should be an air of the benefit of the doubt for Iowa to do what Iowa does under Kirk Ferentz, by the way, which is get better as this season goes along. And oh, by the way, somehow, some way, I don't know what magic trick or rabbit they're yanking out of a hat, but with defense and special teams and maybe some marginal pass game improvement, go beat Rutgers, Indiana, Wisconsin, and hopefully Nebraska, Michigan State, maybe a USC, Oregon, or Penn State. Right now, it's really tough to forecast Iowa, even in Kinnick, beating either Penn State or Oregon. Those feel like losses.
I wouldn't pick it right now, unfortunately.
I don't even know if I would even pick I wouldn't even know if I'd pick Iowa to beat Indiana, to be honest with you.
Indiana looked a lot better last week. Fernando Mendoza, the Cal transfer, looked like a Curtis Rourke replacement in that Kirk Cignetti offense. So
if that game was in Bloomington, I would pick Indiana to win
easily. Yeah. I think the home field advantage is the one saving grace for Iowa in that matchup, where you can maybe pick out a scenario where they win because they're at home. But yeah, T. Hink, man, great call there. Thanks for hopping on with us to talk everything Iowa, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you next week, hopefully about an improved passing offense in that UMass game.
Hopefully, it's that's all I want to see is a passing game. To be honest with you, I could care less to see the running game. I know that's what Iowa strides themselves on, but the passing game is abysmal. And I'm not a betting man, but do me one favor and hit that under, because I don't think Iowa's getting the over this weekend.
Always bet the under. Always bet the under. All right. Thank you, T. Hink.
All right, you guys have a good night. Go Hawks.
You too, brother.
You too.
Taylor Hink, man. Bringing the heat.
And we got a lot of comments, Josh, also bringing the heat. We'll try and get caught up on a few of them here. We got Seth in the chat. Iowa needs to open it up, period.
Yeah. Agreed.
And he said it's not fair for the offensive line to hold that load every single game. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that, Seth. Bill in the chat. A lot of new moving parts to bring together, and then down a few of the top guys out of the gate. Yeah, the injury concern. We haven't really talked about the injuries too much, Josh. But Addison Ostrenga officially out for the year. Really unfortunate for a guy that many of us kind of hoped would take that next step that we've seen so many Iowa tight ends take in their careers, and he's done. And he's a senior. He does have a red shirt available, so we'll see if that's an option for him. But there's a chance that he has played his last game as an Iowa Hawkeye, and Iowa's not showing a lot of reliable depth at that tight end spot, Josh. I'm really concerned about that room going forward.
Yeah, well, just first, I hate it for Addison, who was set up for this to be his moment to try to morph into that next great Hawkeye tight end. And unfortunately, the injury bug had other ideas for Addison Ostrenga. So hopefully for his case, for the Hawkeyes, he elects to come back and it still has that one final great season with Iowa. Zach Ortworth, we've seen a chunk play here or there at times. How much can Hayden Large start to factor in for things? I mean, he's done some nice things, I feel like, at times for Iowa, and unsung sort of player. started out as a fullback. He's in that tight end group now and was listed this week now as the number 2 Hawkeye tight end. So I would not count Hayden Large out of morphing into a big-time factor. Obviously, Vonamy there and Thomas Meyer, the freshman that they're excited about. So, no, I'm with you. It's unfortunately not – you can't say it's a position of strength right now today at tight end. Hopefully that changes. And by season's end, we can feel good about Ortworth and Large and maybe even Vonamy or Meyer, but I understand your concern.
Yeah, Hawkeye fan in the chat. Iowa defense looks good. Give Gronowski a chance. Yeah, I mean, it's still early in the season. I mean, there's still 10 games left, so don't want to completely write off the guy yet, but it hasn't looked good so far here early on. Hawkeye fan also chiming in. Gill did not get to the sticks on that first drive. Kirk said the receivers are not taught that. We talked about that with T. Hink, some of those issues with receivers running routes sort of the sticks. I can't think of anything more frustrating to me offensively than, it's a 3rd and 5 and you run your curl route 4 yard at a 4 yard depth and you're tackled short and you have to punt because Iowa's not going to be aggressive enough to go for it on a 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And just so frustrating for an offense that really needs everything to go its way to have any success. And you can't shoot yourself in the foot like that in this Iowa offense.
No, you can't. And those issues, we've seen them over not just this season, but over a couple of years now. And I don't get it, man. You got to coach those guys to get to the sticks and beyond the sticks. They have to. There's no reason for those kind of mistakes. And you're right. The margin for error for this offense right now looks like, again, Zach, that they just don't have margin for error. So those types of mistakes, the drops, man, wide receivers, just a big-time problem for Iowa. A group that we hoped was going to be legitimately improved is not improved in the way that we thought they were going to be improved. And the physical mistakes of the drops mixed with the mental mistakes of not getting to the sticks, they've got to get them corrected. I believe they can, but they got to get that. They got to get that accomplished.
Yeah, Seth talking about what he wants to see versus UMass. I want to see Iowa throw the football. We need to know what we have. Maybe the cupboard is bare. Seth says, "Yeah, I mean we've talked about it. Iowa needs to throw the ball a lot on Saturday to have fans feel any sort of confidence about that unit heading into Big Ten play, and we'll see if it actually happens. Iowa could beat UMass, I think, by throwing for 40 yards and rushing for 300, and they would win the game comfortably. But I don't think any Iowa fan would feel remotely good about the team if that happens. I think Iowa really needs to, I think they need to come out and be aggressive and show that they actually are capable of moving the ball through the air, because it's been really bad so far. I think it was a Nebraska site, and they like totaled it together, Josh, and Mark Gronowski has 127 passing yards, I think, through his first 2 Iowa starts, and it's the fewest total passing yards in the first 2 starts by a Big Ten quarterback with a minimum of 30 pass attempts ever in the history of the conference. And
wow,
it's not good. It's really not good. He hasn't eclipsed 100 passing yards in either game this season. I think I texted our Hawkeye Wire team like in the third quarter that he had more passing yards than Rocco Becht at one point, which was funny until it wasn't. And then Rocco got going there at the end, and Iowa's passing offense went dormant. I think I wanted to talk to you about one of the other turning points in that game, which was that tipped catch by Gabe Burkle for Iowa State on their last drive, because it was a 3rd down, I believe. And on replay, I watched the play again. Someone on the Iowa defensive line, I can't remember who. He tipped the ball first, so it tipped off an Iowa defensive lineman's hands, off an Iowa State receiver's hands, and into the hands of Gabe Burkle on a 3rd down. If that ball falls incomplete, Iowa gets the ball back with about, I think, 4.5 to 5 minutes left from probably their own 30, 35-yard line. And they're the ones going down the field looking for a game-winning field goal. And I think at least for me and a lot of other Iowa fans, the minute that Gabe Burkle caught that ball, I think a lot of fans was like, "Yep, that's probably game right there." Because once you give Rocco Betts another chance like that, he wasn't going to miss that, and they went down and got the field goal, and then just a pathetic final offensive drive for Iowa with those 2 sacks.
Yeah, you can't take them in that moment. So frustrating. But gosh, the catch, man, tip ball drill, and somehow winds up in an unfortunate place for Hawkeye fans for Burkle there. But a couple of times in that fourth quarter where you just felt like, okay, this is the moment. If you can get this stop and get the football back, maybe Iowa can sneak out of here, go mount that drive to, just sneak a win out of Ames, and it unfortunately didn't happen. Are we, and I'm pointing at myself, are we being a little bit too hyper reactionary to a loss versus a good team? And let me preface this by saying, I've heard a lot of people say, hey, that's a college football playoff team over there. That might be a Big 12 champion team over there. I don't know that Iowa State, to me, I don't think Iowa State's a legitimate Big Ten championship contender if they're in the Big Ten. I don't think they're an SEC championship contender if they're in the SEC. So for me, I look at it and I say, okay, yeah, they might be a college football playoff contender, but the barometer of, and I think it's a good Iowa State team. I'm not saying it's a bad Iowa State team. I think it's a top 25 Iowa State team. But to me, it's not a Big Ten championship winning Iowa State team. It's not an SEC contending championship team in Iowa State. So, okay, with that as kind of the backdrop, are we still overreacting to a 1-score loss to Iowa State?
Oh, 100%. We're Iowa fans. That's what we do best is overreact. And not that everything's an overreaction. I have very legit concerns about the future of the program that I talked about on Monday and we've talked about tonight. So I'm not saying that every single concern is an reaction, but that was a top 20 team you played on the road, and you were right there. And I mean, I would probably played there at least offensively a D+, C- game at best, and they almost beat a top 20 team on the road who had all the momentum and was at home and all that stuff, and it took a crazy break on a tip ball to get them into field goal range. So I think if you step back and you look at it from a neutral point of view, it's not a bad loss for Iowa. It's a frustrating one. It sucks, but
the style of the loss.
Yes, it's the style of the loss, and I think with the frustration with Mark Gronowski, it's not all fair to him because Mark Gronowski's bearing the weight of every single bad quarterback that's come before him over the last 5 years at Iowa. So Spencer Petras, Alex Padilla, Deacon Hill, Cade McNamara,
and
all of these guys,
just the overall offensive shortcomings over that period.
Yeah, and so he's wearing all of that, and it's not all his fault. Like it's not his fault that Spencer Petras wasn't a very good quarterback here, or that Deacon Hill was a complete failure. Like that wasn't his fault, but he's having to wear that and take the brunt of that frustration from Iowa fans because he's the new guy at that position now. And so it's not all fair to him,
and he got paid, and fans know he got paid.
Yeah. Yep. And so it's just a tough situation for everyone involved. And
did you get into what the ceiling is for this team now? Like, how much has this changed your expectation for the way the rest of this year plays out? 7-5 now. Based on what this offense is, Zach, I don't even think 7-5 is a bad season with what this offense looks like
as currently constructed. Yeah,
8-4, I think, would be a very good season for this Iowa team, especially considering that I think right now you got 2 built-in losses versus Penn State and Oregon. You'd love to say that you upset one of those 2 inside Kinnick, but it's impossible to forecast that.
Oregon looks fantastic so far this season. I mean, Oklahoma State is by no means a premier Power 4 program anymore, but it's still a Power 4 program. When they went on the road, I think lost 69-3 or something like that. Like
that's correct.
Oregon completely took it to Oklahoma State there, and I mean, they look fantastic. Penn State hasn't played anyone yet, but I think we all kind of expect, them to be one of the best teams in the country just based on the production that they brought back. Although I wouldn't put it past the James Franklin team to disappoint at some point this season. But if you're saying Iowa goes 8-4, you're saying that they lose to Penn State and Oregon, and that they beat one of Indiana or USC and then win out versus the rest of the schedule, which I think would be a very good season considering what Iowa looks like right now. Because there's games like I'm even a little worried next week at Rutgers. And
sure,
I know I shouldn't be, but Rutgers has a quarterback.
No, hang on. You should be worried about the trip to Piscataway. I know that Iowa's never lost there, and it's Rutgers. You should be concerned. There's nothing that's happened in these first 2 weeks that should make you feel any kind of comfortable that Iowa's going and definitively winning at Rutgers. You shouldn't be.
Yeah, because Rutgers has a good quarterback over there, Ethan Kaliak-Manis, and Ian Strong, the receiver's been good. And it is a Greg Schiano coach team. I will say Rutgers defense has not looked very good this year. They got carved up by Ohio, I believe, and they just barely escaped that game. But Iowa's offense has not looked very good this year. So if you're Rutgers defense, you're probably seeing an opportunity there to go and steal one a low scoring game, because Rutgers has the better quarterback easily. I think. Is there a game after UMass where you can look at it and say Iowa has the better quarterback versus any of these Big Ten teams? I mean, maybe Wisconsin, depending on how Billy Edwards looks, and maybe Minnesota, depending on how Drake Lindsay improves. But I think everyone else you look at, and I mean, it's miles and miles better. I mean, Aiden Childs with Michigan State, Dylan Raiola, and I know we count on him, but he's better than what Iowa's got right now. Jaden Maiava over there at USC. I mean, it's not
gonna be
good.
A tough game.
And especially when you look at the team that Iowa plays at the end of September, Indiana, they had a quarterback departure, with Curtis Rourke last year, and they picked up Fernando Mendoza. Why can't Iowa do something like that? Why can't they get the transfer quarterback that comes in and plays really well? I think that's Iowa's frustration, is that, it's going to the I don't like calling these players this, but it's kind of like going to the scrap heap in the transfer portal. Iowa's not getting the top tier transfer portal quarterbacks. They're not getting a Cam Ward or a John Mateer to transfer to Iowa. And so you're getting the second crop of guys that have some talent, but need the right system, need the right coaching, need the right playmakers to succeed. And Iowa doesn't have that.
Agreed. And are you picking up the phone if you're in that first tier?
No.
And that's so frustrating. So for Iowa, they're going to have to cash in on either getting the high school quarterback and developing, right? Which, look, we already had that discussion earlier tonight. Or they're going to have to get this Gronowski type quarterback that isn't in that first class of quarterbacks out of the transfer portal, and they're going to have to hit there. And that's the only way they're going to get, to where they can climb that ladder and get one of those, first group of quarterbacks. By the way, we mentioned Oregon. Did you see Dan Lanning's pregame speech?
Yeah.
How awesome was that?
Yeah. I think Dan Lanning's a great coach. I think he's one of the better coaches in the country, and he gets, he doesn't get too much credit because, they lost to Ohio State in the playoffs last year after going 12-0 and winning the Big Ten. So it ended on a sour note, but that Oregon team is really good. And yeah, Dan Lanning's a great coach. And I know a bunch of Alabama fans want him to be the next Alabama head coach.
That'd be a good hire.
It'd be a great hire. I don't know if he leaves Oregon, but if Alabama's calling, maybe he would. I don't know. It's still.
I loved it. If you missed it, he gave they're playing Oklahoma State, as everybody knows. And obviously, Mike Gundy had some comments about the respective NIL coffers, which I don't think Mike Gundy's in the wrong, by the way. And I don't think he was taking a direct shot necessarily at Oregon. I think he was just commenting on the situation at Oklahoma State as compared to Oregon. There's probably a lot of truth in what Mike Gundy said. But okay, as expected, Dan Lanning took said ammunition, ran with it, and he said, "Cowboy up." Yep. Well, today we're the bull. And the effing bull. They don't want to ride this one today. So that was pretty good.
I think we'll end here, Josh, with this last comment that just came in from Seth. And he said, if we hire internally, who's the pick, Woods or Wallace? And I wanted to bring this up because I do not think Iowa should hire internally for the next head coach. It can't happen.
Now.
Yeah, it's got to be someone. It's got to be like a Ben McCollum type of hire from the Iowa men's basketball program, where you go from outside the program. And like the only one, like when Iowa promoted Jan Jensen to head coach, like it made sense with that culture and what Lisa Bluter had done and that. But I don't think it would make sense at all for Iowa to hire internally when Kirk Ferentz eventually leaves.
How can I float this by you? The answer to the question, by the way, for me is LeVar Woods. So
yeah.
If
LeVar Woods for sure.
If it's one of those two options, it's LeVar Woods for me. Could you be talked into the idea that maybe he's not as lockstep with Kirk Ferentz as you might think? And that's not saying that he's not. He's obviously a wonderful assistant, and he's regarded as one of the top young minds in college football. We've seen him on the top 40, under 40 in the past, and so on and so forth. He's been on those types of lists, or best assistant coaches to be the next head coach. Woods has been in that category, but maybe he could, if he gets the job, not philosophically agree with everything that Kirk Ferentz has been about, while also being a great Kirk Ferentz employee and assistant coach right here, right now, today. I could entertain that scenario, but you'd have to, if I sit down, if LeVar Woods sits down and comes into my office and I'm Beth Gatz and we're having this conversation and he's trying to sell me on taking over and being the next head football coach, he better sell me that he is in fact going to be that LeVar Woods, to where it's, wait a second, I'm going to go hire one of the best, brightest, young, different offensive minds, and we're not going to be the Iowa that you've known as athletic director. We're going to be radically different under my watch. So if that was the case, I feel, I guess what I'm saying, more confident that could happen with Woods than Wallace. I don't have a good explanation for why that's the case, other than I guess Wallace is, on the defensive side of the football. He seems more Ferentz-ish to me, and that might be unfair, Coach Wallace. If it is, I'm sorry. But for both of them, they'd have to really strongly, I think, Zach, sell Beth Gatz on the idea that under my watch, we could be radically different.
Yeah, and T. Hink wants Brett Bielema. I would love that. I don't think he's leaving Illinois to come back here, unfortunately. But it'd be the storylines would be pretty fun if Brett Bielema were to eventually return to Iowa. Before we head out, let's give some final score predictions for this UMass game. I've got Iowa winning 35-10. I don't think until Iowa shows me that they can actually score and move the ball and put up points on offense, I'm not picking them to put up over 40, even though UMass is absolutely terrible. So Iowa wins, but they don't cover a massive 35.5 spread, which is way too high in my opinion.
Yeah, what was your final?
I had 35-10, and maybe I'm going to be
I'm
giving UMass too much credit.
I'm going to be 1 point different. I'm going to say 34-10, and I don't know that they're getting 10 points, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
4 touchdowns, couple of field goals, something like that sounds about right, which, at this point, that's going to feel like, you're going to feel like an offensive explosion.
Air raid offense in Iowa City now after 4 touchdowns.
I will attempt to be positive as this season rolls along. I hope that, I don't know, follow our coverage here and at HawkeyesWire.com for our written work. And it's not all doom and gloom. Just there are some lingering frustrations. And I think you have to have a transparent, honest, authentic conversation that, look, these offensive woes, they've been around for a long time. But it is still Go Hawks, and things can improve, and let's hope that is the case.
Yeah, always. And hopefully we're talking, on Monday about a big Iowa win in a passing game that looks competent. But, we'll see what happens this weekend. As always, follow us.
One parting shot here, and I know we're over the limit. People are digging the late night show. What do you think?
Yeah, the late night show's it's kind of fun. You can listen to us. You can have Thursday Night Football on in the background. It's fun. It's fun. Late night show is a good time. Hawkeyes After Hours here.
Is it here to stay?
Maybe. Well, you have to tune in next week to find out. We'll give them the old radio tease right there, and see if we'll see if that sticks around. But yeah, make sure you're following us on X at Josh on Hawks, for Josh at Zach_Heine, for me at Hawkeyes Wire for all of our written work, and of course at the VOCFB for the voice of college football. And we're going to be back on Monday night with Iowa Primetime Live. Until then, have a great night, everybody, and go Hawks.